Adding a larger tire to the back of your Jeep can add a lot of stress onto your tailgate. So today we're going to install a body-mounted tire carrier on our 2016 Jeep Wrangler. The factory tire carrier in your JK is great for your stock size wheels and tires, but we're looking to hold a little bit bigger of a tire back there. So today we're looking at this Rugged Ridge HD body-mounted tire carrier fitting your 2007 through 2018 Jeep Wrangler. If you overload the factory tire carrier with too heavy of a wheel and tire combination, you risk damaging your tailgate and factory hinges. This body-mounted tire carrier features a one-piece die-cast aluminum design, which installs in factory locations. Being that this kit is a standalone design, it will work with other factory rear bumpers, as well as most aftermarket rear bumpers. Now let's get it installed on our 2016 Jeep Wrangler. Tools needed for this installation: half-inch socket, 6mm Allen key socket, a T50 Torx bit, 6-inch 3/8 ratchet extension, a 3/8 inch ratchet, 10mm stubby box wrench, 10mm box wrench, a 19mm box wrench, and a 3/4 inch box wrench. First step of this installation is to remove the spare tire. We're going to remove the 8 bolts holding on the factory tire carrier. Make sure you keep this hardware. Now you can see we've got an oversized third brake light bracket here. What we're going to do is remove these 4 Phillips head screws. That way we can retain our original third brake light. And we're going to set this aside for later once we install the new Rugged Ridge body mounted carrier. Now that we've got the carrier removed, we're going to remove these factory tire bumpers. Just grab them firmly and pull them out. We're also going to remove these factory tailgate hinge covers here. That way we can remove the tailgate hinges a little bit later. Just grab them firmly and pull them towards the left of the Jeep, and they'll pop right off. So we've got the tailgate covers off. Now the next step before we can completely remove the hinges is to support this tailgate so it doesn't fall when we remove the factory hinges. We've got a couple shims here. They're just simple wood shims. You can grab anything that you have laying around. And we're just going to put them on each side of the tailgate. That way it's supported. So now the tailgate is completely supported by the shims we just put in. We're going to remove these 2 bolts here and then also the 3 Torx bolts underneath the body side of the hinge. Now that we've got these 2 pulled out, we can actually open up the hinge a little bit, revealing these 2 on the inside, and we're going to start with those, pulling them off with the Torx bit. And we're going to repeat the same step onto the lower hinge here. We've got the hinges removed, and now we're going to actually clean underneath here. That way it's a nice clean surface when we install the new body mounted carrier. And now we're going to place the Rugged Ridge body mounted carrier onto the Jeep. We're going to start with the outside Torx fitting and just get that loosely started. Okay, now so we've got the outside Torx bolts tightened down. Don't tighten down these inside hinge bolts until we get the 2 inside Torx bolts tightened down, or you won't be able to get to them later. So we're going to open up this hinge with the 2 tightened on the outside, and you've got 2 on the upper and 2 on the lower. We're going to use the factory hardware to put those back in. Now we're not going to tighten these all the way down yet until we get them all installed. Now that we've got the factory hardware back into these hinge bolts and the tire carrier hinge bolts, we're ready to tighten down these outside 2 bolts. That way we get a fixed point of location. We can now remove these factory bolts here and tighten down the inside 2 Torx bolts. Okay, now we can close this hinge up now that all the Torx bolts are completely tightened down, and we'll tighten down these 4 factory hinges. Now let's get these tightened down. So now we've got the tailgate completely supported by this new rugged ridge tailgate assembly. We can remove the shims that we place underneath the tailgate because it is fully supported. And if you've noticed, we haven't installed these bolts here. We're going to wait until we install the actual tire carrier plate to get these bolts installed. Now the next step in this is going to be to install the actual new spare tire mounting plate. Now as you can see, we have this thing completely bare, no third brake light, and no actual studs to mount it. We're going to get this thing bolted up and then figure out where we need to place everything else. And we're also going to use the factory hardware for these locations. And unlike the actual hinge part, we can go through and tighten these all up as soon as you put them in. Okay, and the kit comes with provided screws, so use the longer screws for the top mount and the shorter screws for the lower mount. Okay, so we've got the factory third brake light installed on our new bracket. Now, this carrier is pretty nice. You can adjust the height of your third brake light. So in our case, we're running about a 32-inch tire, so we're going to use one of the lower settings. If you have a taller tire, you can of course go upward in height. Now we can use the provided hardware to put this at the right height. So we got the third brake light installed. Now we're going to install the tire mounting face. And you're going to slide this over here. And there's actually a slotted piece on the sides of each of these. You can put it out wider or put it in close to the body. The goal is to get the tire as close to the body as you can. So we're going to start at about the halfway point and see where we need to adjust from there. Make sure you tighten down these 4 bolts. Now the goal is to get this completely level. So as you're tightening, make sure you don't tighten it completely, so that way you can still adjust this front face here. So once you get the tire carrier face mounted where you want it, Rugged Ridge actually provides these 2 set screws, which go into these threaded nuts right here. We're going to start them in and tighten them down. And the final step is to reinstall your spare tire, and your installation is complete. So we just got the install complete of the new Rugged Ridge body mounted tire carrier. Now I'm super happy with the way this turned out. It really gave us a lot more clearance for our tire, and it's a single one-handed opening. Install was pretty simple. It only took about an hour and a half, and I did it by myself, so you won't really need an extra set of hands. If you want to find this body mounted tire carrier and many other great parts, visit cjponyparts.com.